There we go. There we go. You can do it. Yeah. Good morning from the Richmond Olympic Oval on a frigid Saturday morning, but we're hoping things will heat up here as the Paralympic qualifiers will have their, by the end of the day, down to 4 teams battling for 2 spots. Tim, joined by Tim Frick. So what are we going to expect in this morning game between Brazil and Colombia? Obviously, Brazil looking for their first win. Colombia already has one, but Brazil is slightly better in the goal differential.
Well, Brazil, of course, ranked number 9 in the world, Colin, and number 12 ranked for Colombia, but last time they played, I think Colombia may have beaten them, so this could be a really spirited match. This is a must-win situation for Colombia. I don't think Brazil has a chance to get into the top 4. They're just playing for South American pride, and we know what that's like.
And the spoiler, and you know, that could be a fun role, especially as you mentioned, if there is a rivalry to dash your foe's hopes. So we'll see what happens there. And looking at the leaderboard last night, I mean, Canada and France are really running away with the tournament so far. And Germany has 3 wins as well. So they haven't guaranteed themselves a spot tomorrow, but they put themselves in a pretty good position. So it looks like for the moment that there's, between the remaining teams, 1 spot to be fought for.
Well, this is a great way to run a tournament as well. You know, 7 teams. You play each team obviously in the round robin, so that's 6 games over 4 days. So you got to be fit and you got to have a good bench. And top 4 will make it into the qualification playoffs on Sunday at noon and 2 o'clock. Of course, there's some incentive to finish first because you will play the 4th place team. The 2nd place team will play the 3rd place team, and of course, the winners will make sure their passports are up to date and get ready to pack for Tokyo.
So that game in a bit between Canada and France obviously means a lot with those top 2 teams, and obviously you want to, like you mentioned, the first gets the 4th. So not only the 2 best teams in the tournament so far, but also, like you mentioned, a good format to have something at stake for that game as well.
That's right, and these 2 teams, or Canada-France, had quite a rivalry at the World Championships. And we expect this rivalry, though, will really be exciting here with Colombia playing against Brazil. Should mention, Colin, that Australia, New Zealand, the host Japan, USA, Great Britain, and Denmark have already qualified for the Paralympics. And so this is the last chance for teams, and that'll make the 2 pools of 4 in Tokyo.
This is a bit different for me, having only called Canada Cup, so a lot of teams that I may not have seen, the ones you just mentioned, are ones that I've seen. So I heard that I'm supposed to expect a physical game today between these 2 teams, and I'm not sure if that's the general style or the animosity that's built up between the 2 teams, maybe a little bit of both. But
well, I think number 4 for Colombia, Nunez, the 3.5, he's a very aggressive player. He's got a long reach, so we'll expect a lot out of him. And DeBrash is a shorter player, is the primary ball handler for Brazil, and we'll see how that matchup works, and we see them meeting at center there.
Well, my only question for you, Tim, was the fact that with Colombia, they have 2 3.5s, but only 1 0.5, so it's hard to run that high-low that you like to have with 2 3.5ers. So how do you expect them, or what is their strategy regarding that?
Well, I think they rely on Nunez to be their superstar, and they're going to hope that he does a great job. Also for Colombia, number 11, Vargas, the Class 2. Really, he's a solid player, and he'll play above his class for part of the game for sure until, obviously, the Brazilians wear him down a bit.
So it's Wiersma Jr. for Brazil, and it's Nunez at the tip-off for Colombia. Both teams already locking up in their position as we're about ready to go.
Referees for today's game, Sophie Azzi from France and Madison Little from the USA.
So it's Nunez with the ball as he wins the tip-off. Starting out through center, fighting off a check. He's got a couple men with him which enable the pick, and Nunez is able to get the early score for the Colombians.
Well, we'll probably see a lot of that throughout this game as Nunez, the primary ball handler. Some of the other teams like Switzerland, for instance, Sweden rely on passing, but Colombia will rely a lot on ball handling and dribbling.
So here it is, Brazil with the ball. One over top. There is Camargo. So he starts the play in his defensive zone and finishes it off offensively. So it's a tie game, 26 seconds into the opening quarter here. Colombia on the inbound. They send one ahead. Now they're trapped a little bit by Brazil. Colombia trying to get out of their zone and lob a pass ahead. And they are able to field it down as Nunez, you said the ball handler, is able to win that one. It looked a little dicey, and eventually Colombia is able to put it in. That was Nem on the finish there. Camargo on the inbound. Gets it up ahead. Now here's Brazil. A long lob pass. They've got a man in the back court able to field that one down. And that is Wiersma Jr., excuse me.
Well, nice breakout by Wiersma as he went wide and then moved on to the ball. And we've been talking about that a lot all week, you know, those passing angles.
Speaking of good lob ahead, that was another nice one by Colombia. And Vargas able to put that one in. Brazil back the other way. Working the ball out of the back court. Good pass there, Vargas. Spinning off the checks, gets a pick. What's the call here, Tim?
It looks like an equipment timeout. We're not sure if it's going to be a flat tire. Usually you can hear the flat.
Yeah,
the tires burst over here, but often what happens, I see the wheels are falling off there. Often what happens is those quick release hubs or axles, you just have to press them with your thumb to pop the wheel off. Sometimes somebody else's chair will bump into that little button and the wheel will pop off. So hopefully Gonçalves will be able to keep that wheel on.
Camargo with the inbound now. And Brazil starts the other way. Looking for a lane over the top, and they are able to find one. That's a great play in there to Gonçalves. He's able to put one in, and the score is tied at 3. 1 minute, 30 seconds into the first quarter.
Wiersma with a nice little back screen to create that gap just inside the post.
It's Colombia trying to get out of their defensive end, and again Brazil makes it difficult on them, and they are able to get the turnover. Now they're trying to go on offense. A good pass to Guter, so the inbounder who starts the play is able to benefit from that turnover.
Well, that was a great catch by Camargo just at the try line. Brazil with a bit of momentum here.
Yes, the aggressive play has paid off as now the Colombians back the other way.
It'll be interesting to see how this single primary ball handler versus the double primary ball handlers situation works out. Colombia, of course, relying heavily on Nunez, number 4. Brazil looking to Gonçalves and De Broche, numbers 10 and 11.
Yes, Gonçalves with the ball now, bounces it over. There's Gunter to Gonçalves. Working off the checks. Is able to use his picks now. Looks like he's going to find a way in here. He's contested at the backcourt. And he can't quite get it in. He's trying to find a lane here. Goes the other way. He's getting a countdown from the bench. Can't put it in. The shot clock is running low over the top, and that's not going to work. And that's a great defensive play by Colombia, able to stem the tide here a little bit.
Excellent work by Colombia. They avoided being pushed over the try line, so that's one good thing. Secondly, they avoided the 4 and the key call and really shut the door on De Broche. De Broche, if you could criticize one thing about his play throughout the week, is he overhandles the ball and then only passes when he's in a desperate situation. And we saw that time that he got into a desperate situation with the possession clock running down and threw it out of bounds.
May make it predictable for his opponents as well. As we have another tire malfunction, I think. And have you ever seen that as kind of a, let's say your tire was, sometimes you say you hear it, but maybe pop, but not quite popped, and you need to stem the tide, so you get an equipment change when you need a little bit of a break?
Well, I think there is a bit of an advantage rule there that the referees will not call. So, and for the most part, the sportsmanship of these teams is such that no one really takes advantage of that sort of sly type of play.
As Nunez is able to put it in for the Colombians, and Gunter will start it the other way.
Well, again, DeBrosh with an errant pass. Put that one a little too flat and a little too far, and kind of a Hail Mary over the shoulder, and Gonsalves not quite able to reel that one in.
Now Colombia back the other way. Nunez able to put it in. So Nunez is having a pretty good start. A few early tries for him.
A bit of a rhubarb here at the bench. The Brazilian coach wanting a timeout, but score table not giving them it.
DeBrosh harassed coming out, but he's still got the ball. Leaning on his man and able to get in, and that's good strength and size by DeBrosh, coming all the way from the backcourt into the offensive situation.
You take a look at it right there. He's got to wheel and hang onto the ball at the same time, and there's someone leaning right on him. Great play by DeBrosh. And just when Colombia thinks things are going well for them, they had the 2-try lead. All of a sudden they cough it up, and Brazil with a chance for some momentum here.
Yeah, and you mentioned one of the big things in this game is, especially in the matches where it's so close, is those little turnovers. You know, you may think it's something, a little one turnover or two in the first quarter, but that could come back to kill you in those big games.
Well, the closer the teams are, the more critical every single possession is. And one or two turnovers more than the other team will actually cost you the game. The teams are very efficient at scoring when they have possession.
So it's Nem. Gets it over there is Vargas. Colombia is able to wheel it in again, and Nunez on the offensive business end once more, and it looks like he may be having some trouble with his chair.
Or perhaps his installation, some strapping or something not quite right. And I thought that might have been a turnover over there, but turns out one of the Brazilians must have tipped it. So Colombia gets a bit lucky there, and they're able to extend that lead to 2.
Gunter, a little bit of a dangerous pass there, but the Brazilians are able to field it in, and look at him go. He's spinning back, looking for an open lane, but the Colombians, Nunez is able to try to thwart it off, but...
So 10 seconds without dribbling the ball will result in a turnover and a big break for...
Yeah, both teams have been aggressive and both teams have been guilty of turnovers so far in the early first quarter of this one.
So Colombia catches a break, and during this Brazilian timeout, we'll take an opportunity to thank our sponsors, our sport organization sponsors, BC Wheelchair Sports Association, Wheelchair Rugby Canada, and the International Wheelchair Rugby Federation. Our government sponsors, Province of British Columbia, the Government of Canada through Sport Canada, Richmond Sport Hosting, and the Richmond Olympic Oval. And Colin, we're taking a look at the Oval right now. If you look at the ceiling, those beautiful archways with the wood finish in between, made of the pine beetle wood from the interior of British Columbia. It's got slight blue tinge to it, and that happened because it wasn't cold enough for a few years, and the pine beetles were able to get into the wood. It's still sound, though. We don't have to worry about anything happening. Vesco, our rugby and day chair sponsor. Moulton, who make the wheelchair rugby balls for the Paralympics and also for a number of other sports, the Olympics and Paralympics. House Lager, if you're in the Lower Mainland, come on down to the beer garden here at the Oval. Enjoy a House Lager. And our 2 airport hotels, the Sheraton and the Marriott.
So it's Team Colombia with a 7-5 lead, and they're inbounding the ball on the defensive end. Nunez back out with it again, finds a wide lane in the middle. He's trying to be cut off there, but he is able to fight it over center, make a great pass as he's contacted out of his chair, and ultimately scoring that goal there was Vargas. Yes, yeah. Vargas able to take it in. But Nunez
flying through the air with the greatest of ease.
Yeah, able to make the pass and the Superman throw as he's fallen out of his chair, but good for him that his team is able to convert. Hurts a little bit less when you score, and Brazil comes back the other way. Trying to get over the center line, a good lob pass up ahead, and they were able to field it in the offensive zone.
Oh, Wiersma and Camargo there talking about that one as it bounced by, and I thought they were both going to say you got it, but instead Wiersma takes control.
Yeah, ultimately it is Wiersma scoring and keeps it a 2-score game here, 3:36 to go in the opening quarter.
You see that replay where Nunez is going so fast that, and the camber on the wheel is actually, his camber looks a lot a greater angle than most cambers, and so it's real easy to ride up on someone else's cambered wheel and flip yourself over. So he was looking to the referees for a penalty, but to no avail.
Maybe we're seeing that physicality that you mentioned because there's already been 3-4 tire repairs and we're not even through the first quarter.
Well, there haven't been a lot of big hits, but there's been a lot of grinding and contact.
So Brazil set up in the collapse defense as Nunez carries over center, deciding what to do as he slows things down. He's got a few options. Decides to keep it himself. Gets a good pick there, and he's got a center lane. Protects the ball with his hands very nicely, and gets the try there and forces Brazil to come back from their own end.
A nice set play by Colombia there as they use crossing and picking to create some gaps.
It's Gonçalves. Gonçalves over center now. He's getting inside the key. He's getting some nice picks. Nunez trying to defend him. He's getting some good picks from his teammates. Gonçalves still has it though. Trying to jam his way through center. Can't quite do it. Yes, he can. So the back and forth continues. Colombia still with a 2-score lead. 9-7-3 to go in the opening quarter. Nunez. Getting room, getting some picks. He's been carrying himself a lot. Makes a nice move there. And they're already locking up in the defensive court going the other way as there's a battle behind the play.
The referee, I believe, is giving one of the teams a warning for contact before the whistle.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a 2-on-1 battle as trapped behind the play.
I believe that warning was to Colombia, so next time it'll be a violation.
Well, and there's a big contact, but they are able to get it up ahead is Brazil. Working the ball in the key, trying to find an open lane. Can't quite score yet, but they get it over the top. In they come, spinning back, dropping off. Good work by Brazil offensively, getting a countdown as the shot clock's running low, and ultimately Brazil is able to score. So that was a nice try there by Gonçalves.
Well, DeBrash again hanging onto that ball a long time, and finally in desperation passes it, and luckily Gonçalves was open near the try line in that gap.
Oh, and Nunez contacted hard again, and he looks like that one actually hurt him quite a bit.
Certainly no love lost here.
This is
trash talking going on as Nunez laying on the court and Camargo wheeling around.
This is the most, honestly, it's not much, but it's the most trash talk I've heard in one of these already, and both teams showing their dislike for one another.
So there's no call on that other than Nunez making contact with the floor and losing the ball. So Camargo dodges a bullet, in my opinion. Should have been called for the penalty.
So DeBrash and Gonçalves really playing well for the Brazilians. Here is DeBrash working on the offensive end, getting some picks. Gunter in there as well. Circling, trying to find a lane now, weaseling his way through. Nunez reaching in.
And it looks like Gonçalves was pushed over the try line, and there he is right there. Great play by Vargas to recognize that opportunity, and it's a big turnover.
Nunez double teamed in the back court here. Good pressure by the Brazilians. 2 on him. They get it, the ball, and they recovered as well as DeBrush is on it now. Looking for an option. Gonzalez, and there we go. And the Colombians don't like it, but Brazil has caused a turnover and got a goal there. So changing it to a one-score game is 10-9 now, 1:32 to go in the opening quarter. And both teams are really pressing down court. Nunes gets the ball and is contacted hard as he's coming out now. Looking for an option over the top. Finds his option, and it was reeled in and almost turned over there. That was Vargas, but he's able to reel it in. Now, in extreme contact, he's able to find Nunes. Nunes spins to center. Opens up a bit of a lane as there was a pick there, and he's able to get all the way in. So Nunes clearly the straw that stirs the drink for the Colombians as he not only works it out of his own zone, but offensively as well as is doing yeoman's work.
I thought he may have scored a little bit early on. Most teams will wait till the mid-50s.
Vargas tried for DeBrush, but DeBrush wasn't ready. He looked a little frustrated as he wasn't expecting that, and another turnover. So these teams are really, as they say in hockey, it's an offensive game. Both teams are going at it. The fans might love it. Coaches may not be as happy.
And a clever move by Nunes, I believe.
Yes, that was way down in the backcourt. Wasn't able to see that one.
Forces Wiertzme into taking a penalty, and now Colombia will go to the power play. And judging by the way other teams been running the clock management situations, calling at the end of each quarter, they try to score with the mid-50s left so that they can then guarantee themselves the 40-second possession clock, and then if necessary, a 15-second timeout.
No, I don't think none of the players' timeouts have been used. So you can also see that as a tactic to reset the clock.
Exactly. So Brazil will try to prevent Nunes from scoring early, and Nunes will want to score early.
Nunes is being harassed, throws up a prayer. Oh, and it's off Brazil as Vargas off his chair and out. So Colombia throws up a wing and prayer, gets a little bit lucky, gets the possession in the offensive zone, and the clock resets. So a little bit of a double whammy there for Brazil as Colombia with the inbound looking to maybe, as you say, run down the clock as much as they can. Oh, but then Colombia right on cue turns it back over. So you take it, I got it. And all of a sudden it's back to a Brazilian possession.
Talk about snatching defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yes, that was quite the sequence as Wiersma looking for an inbound. Or actually, he's trapped in the box, excuse me. And Brazil back the other way. It's Vargas. Gunter giving him a pick. He's got DeBrush there. DeBrush, he's got a lane. Looked like Colombia lost themselves in coverage a bit, but he's going to eat the clock, so it buys him a little time to reestablish defensive position. Now DeBrush getting a countdown. Going to try to tick this down as much as he can as there's 7 to go. Can they extend their lead to 3? It looks like it. Colombia making a last stand, but he's able to back in with nearly some time on the clock. So that is a big play by Brazil. So it's down to a one-score game now as we're heading to the second quarter.
Well, DeBrush that time hanging onto the ball 3-on-4. They're having trouble scoring in that half-court defense 4-on-4. But that time he was able to spin around and back himself over the try line, and Brazil dodging a few bullets there. Colombia letting them back in the game on at least 3 occasions with turnovers or bad passes.
Yeah, the 2 turnovers each way on 2 straight possessions. One team thinks they've caught a break and then they turn it back over. So as I mentioned, the fans will be entertained. I was entertained, you were entertained, but the coaches maybe not so much.
Yeah, that's right. And don't forget, folks, upcoming at noon Pacific, Team Sweden will take on Team Germany here on the main court, and that'll be a rather important match as well, because those 2 teams are fighting for one of those qualification spots. At 2 o'clock, Canada and France, a battle of the undefeated teams. That'll be an exciting one, and that'll be carried on cbcsports.ca as well as the Canadian Paralympic Committee Facebook page. Look for Benoit Huot, our famous Paralympic swimmer turned media expert, to run some extended coverage on that, some interviews, some highlight packages, the Paralympic Super Series on the Canadian Paralympic Committee Facebook page. 4 o'clock today, Switzerland, I should say, and Colombia. And then to wrap things up, Brazil and Sweden. And pretty well all those games are must-win games for all of these teams, except, of course, Canada-France. However, coming first in the pool would make your crossover a little bit easier and give you a better chance to qualify.
Yeah, as you mentioned, those two teams in Canada and France are looking like the favorites, but, you know, the game isn't played on paper, so anything can happen.
That's right.
And that was...
And it's kind of neat that it's happening in this qualification tournament is happening in Canada, where the sport of wheelchair rugby was invented.
Actually, I haven't been here much, but I haven't seen the Quadfather yet, so he's probably around here somewhere.
He'll probably be around here sometime today, especially with the beer garden open. But I know he's been changing a lot of diapers the last few years. Got a couple of kids to look after as well, so he's probably taking them to their sports events. But back in the mid to late 70s in Winnipeg, a bunch of guys got together. They're kind of upset because shooting the basketball without the tricep muscle was a bit frustrating, so they invented a game called Murder Ball, and it's subsequently become probably the most popular para-team sport behind wheelchair basketball in the world, and of course the movie Murder Ball.
Yeah, no, I have an interesting point, but we'll make that later as we're about to get underway here, but I do have something I want to address in regards to that. And how much do you expect these two teams? I thought maybe they'd use their bench a little bit, but there hasn't been any substitutions as of yet. And you can see the kind of top dogs on both teams really trying to take over here. You got Nunes and Gonçalves and De Brache on here for Brazil. So those are really the three players on both teams that have been the most noticeable so far.
Well, in that matchup between Nunes of Colombia and De Brache from Brazil, De Brache tends to hang onto the ball a little bit too long, but he is fast and maneuverable. Nunes, on the other hand, tall, fast, and his height may end up being an advantage. Brazil, of course, with Gonçalves, number 10, he's also tall, and that gives them a slight advantage. So it'll be interesting to see how this matchup works out throughout the game.
As we're already seeing some jockeying for position. Off the first possession, it's Brazil. They get that one into Gonçalves, and he's able to score, tying the game here. So
that's a big deal, Colin, because they're 3-on-4 now. Colombia's still on the power play.
The Colombians launch one ahead and able to get it in, and De Brache aggressively trying to turn the ball over, but Colombia is able to maintain possession, as it is case here. Or Amaya, excuse me.
Christian Amaya, number 9. Also into the game is Carlos Neme, number 7, the class 1 for Colombia.
Gonçalves working his way out of the backcourt for Brazilians. Gets a pick from Wertsma, is able to get it ahead, and De Brache is able to just reel that one in. Looked a little bit dicey there, but he does have possession as he bounces the ball. Amaya was defending him and now kind of backed off a little bit. I'm not sure why, maybe just trying to reestablish zone position. Here's De Brache trying to find the center lane and is cut off.
See what the referee calls here, I think. The Colombian player Nunes, perhaps 4 in the key. And that'll be... I'm not quite sure what's going on. There's nobody going over to inbound the ball. The referee's counting down the 10 seconds.
Is De Brache in the end able to get it to Gonçalves, who spins backwards, opens himself up a lane on the forehand. He's able to get it down. De Brache looking the other way, making sure defensive responsibilities are taken care of, and he ultimately takes it in. So 1 minute into this game, 1 minute and a second actually, we're tied at 12s in the second quarter.
Well, not a very good penalty by Nunes, as he's forced to declare himself as inbounder, making it a little bit tough to get the ball in.
Nunes gets a nice return pass here and works out in defensive posture, but he's collided on, gets a nice pick, gets one up ahead to his man there, and Amaya is able to take it in. So a good response there by Team Colombia.
Well, clever play by Brazil to force Nunes to inbound the ball, but he's able to get free and pass up to Amaya. So Colombia dodges that one.
Brazil back the other way. Gonzalez makes a switch, goes to his man DeBrash. Working in now, gets a pick and drives that middle lane, trying to open up some roof for him himself, and is able to take it in. So that was quite a nice play. It almost looked like from here that he left it off, but he drove that center lane and was able to score. So the game is back to a tie. And now Colombia set to inbound. As Nem.
Weirdsmith looks like he's going to the penalty box here. Not quite sure what that call was. I was kind of looking down at my notes and missed the referee's signal. So Colombia catching a break here.
Nem now looking for an outlet. Hard pressed to find one, but Amaya is able to get the ball, but he's under a tremendous amount of pressure. Lobs one ahead. Nunez, good sense to read that one. Beat the traffic and find an open lane.
Again, Brazilian player late coming for the throw in. The count has started. You only get 10 seconds. Probably only 3 or 4 left as he barely gets it in.
As Gunter gets a pick from Wurzma. He's able to get it up ahead. DeBrash. Working his way. Protects the ball and gets it to Gonsalves. So the two prominent players hook up again for Brazil. And
as we'll see on the replay there, Colin, DeBrash was stopped, almost pushed into the post and got the ball away just in the nick of time.
And May under a tremendous amount of heat trying the long lob that just worked earlier. But he's really defended hard, and that forces him to take a timeout and a turnover.
Well, all things considered, that's the first on-court timeout. And you see him deep in the court there, nowhere to go, no one to pass to. That'll be the first on-court timeout for either team. So both teams able to
despite the pressure,
get over center despite the pressure and save those critical timeouts for when they'll need them.
And maybe the coaches would have wanted both teams to take one, or
Actually, that was the second for Colombia. I'm sorry, I misspoke.
So Nunez,
Brazil with all 4.
Establishing his possession, he's got a few options, but he again, like he usually does, decides to try to get the middle. The Colombians trying to block, the Brazilians trying to block it off as Nunez comes in, spins back the other way, gets a nice pick there, and that's a great job by the Colombians. But we've got something here. And it doesn't look like Brazil likes it, so I think.
So it is a penalty goal.
Yes, that was
And it may have been because of 4 players in the key.
Nem with a great pick there to open that one up for the Colombians. So they take the lead. Let's see how briefly or not they can keep it up as Gonsalves back the other way. Working over center. And again, it's Nem. Nice aggressive play. Gets some help. And they are able to, yes, it is Nunez able to field it in. It bounced in the air a few times, but Nunez is able to reestablish control. Now he's being defended hard by the Brazilians. Works his way over center. He's double teamed. Able to get it to Nem. Nem with a couple nice moves. Able to get an outside lane. Now controls. Gets it to his man Nunez, who is able to score. So great job by there for the Colombians. Able to capitalize on that turnover and increase their lead by 1. Up to now 16-14.
Neme just about took Nunez's head off with that pass, and he's lucky to hang on.
Oh, a great lob there. It doesn't look like he has speed to catch it. It's bumped by Nunez. And who's going to have possession here?
Well, I think it'll be Colombia ball as Nunez hit Wiertsma.
Yeah, he hit Wiertsma. And Wiertsma, as the pass was coming, didn't look like he had the speed. It looked dicey from here. He was almost able to reel it in, but then the contact by Nunez, I'm not sure if that's going to be a turnover here.
So that'll force the Brazilian coach to call a timeout so that they can discuss their strategies. It looks like it will be Colombia ball, as we see on the replay. Nunez tipping that ball, and we see that pass that went up into his cheek, but he hung on.
Both
teams
teams
the try.
Fueling up a bit here, 4:32, and this again, there's tremendous pace and energy, physicality to this game.
Yeah, a couple of big hits towards the end as the Colombians force that turnover with a big hit right at the center line. The Brazilian player having to make a rather hurried pass that was picked off by Nunez.
Again, it's worse. I think, oh no, it's a Colombian ball, excuse me. So it's Neme able to inbound the ball, looking for an option. Wants to find Nunez, did a great job in turning his body to field that one in, but he's double teamed. Gets a pick from Rodriguez. Rodriguez working hard to open up a lane. He's double teamed. He gets contacted hard, does Nunez. That's the second time he's gone down as he was double teamed there by Gunter and
I think Camargo, number 3, actually was in on that one as we see Camargo's long defensive chair just clipping the backside of Nunez's wheel, and he'll go to the penalty box.
Yeah, second time he's gone down hard. The first one wasn't called on Nunez earlier in the first quarter. This one was, and maybe Brazil showing a bit of frustration as you can kind of see it on their faces from here. But it's Nunez with the ball. Nunez looking for the center lane. He's got it. So what was a tie game briefly is now a 3-point lead for the Colombians. Margot.
The Brazilians really letting this one slip away. Small little errors. And now they're going to be in a whole heap of trouble. Those corner throw-ins are really tough, Colin. We'll see how they handle it.
DeBrash set for an inbound here. Trying to stem the tide. Camargo back out the other way. Takes some contact from Nunez. He's not over center. He's in a little bit of trouble as Nunez got the reach on him and forces him to take the timeout.
That's right, a little bit of payback by Nunez there because it was Camargo that took him out in the play, and he comes across and hits Camargo and then puts a bit of pressure on, forcing the timeout call, which is...
Like they say in hockey, you take a number, you know, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that's right.
And like you mentioned, yeah, it was a tie game briefly. It looked like Brazil had some momentum. You know, maybe frustration maybe it looks like it might be getting to them, but we'll see how they can stem the tide and reestablish their focus here.
Well, there's a lot of emotion in this game as both teams really fighting for South American supremacy as well as that qualification spot. Brazil really not having a chance to get in the top 4, but wanting to be a spoiler. Colombia, of course, with a chance.
So Souza and Hoffman in the game now for the Brazilians as they made a couple subs. DeBrash stays on. One's lobbed ahead. Here, and the Colombians establish possession. Now there's a double team. Looking ahead, and they're able to work it to Nunez. A great over-the-top pass to Rodriguez, and he's done a good job defensively and some aggression and is able to pad his stats a little bit with a nice try there. So it's always good when you see a guy working hard defensively to get rewarded offensively, and he does there.
Yeah, Rodriguez has been a stalwart defender on the corner for Team Colombia.
Hoffman here for the Brazilians, inbounds it. Nunez contacts his man hard, that's Souza. Souza now looking for an option. Nunez making his life difficult. Puts a little bit of a risky pass, and that is picked off there. And you know, that's one situation where it seems like you may want to use that timeout, because from here that looked pretty dicey, and it ended up being. That
would have been a great use of a timeout, as Brazil still has 3 of those left on court. Questioning Brazil's strategy here, just having the one high pointer ball carrier and the mid pointers who aren't very tall in there to receive those inbound passes.
DeBras, one of those high pointers you were mentioning, is able to convert there. Yeah, but maybe it's just giving Gonzalez a little bit of a rest here. That's the only thing I can think of, because he was having a pretty good game. So. And now it's Colombia trying to work out of the backcourt. Nunez with the ball. He's able to beat the heat, get over center. He's got a pick. Is he going to take it himself? Yes, he will, as just looks at the clock, makes sure the defensive posture is good at the other end, and ultimately takes it in. So Colombia has a 4-point lead now, 2:52 to go in the first half and second quarter of this one. Hoffman again is the inbounder for the Brazilians. DeBrush.
A little bit of an equipment timeout here and installation adjustment to the strapping for Team Colombia's Neme, Carlos Neme, number 7.
Neme, has been in.
And you can see, well, we will see when we get a wide shot that the Brazilian team not matching up very well on that inbounds pass. DeBrush not very tall, Nunez quite a bit taller, so that first pass is a tough one.
Souza out of his own end for Brazil. Doesn't have a whole lot of speed as he's double teamed now. Neme on him and Rodriguez, but Rodriguez looks like he reached in maybe. I'm not sure what they're calling here.
I believe it would be a timeout on court, so your suggestion was taken to heart by the Brazilian squad, and you know they're really struggling getting the ball in. You know, there's 3 phases to your attack, Colin. One is getting the ball in. The second is getting over center, and of course the third is setting up that scoring opportunity. And you don't get to phase 3 unless you can get successfully past phases 1 and 2. And Brazil bottled up in their own end.
DeBrush fighting off some checks, and I don't know what the call is here in the corner, but Colombia seems to like it. So
a Brazilian player was out of bounds when he handled the ball, or perhaps when he may have rollen over the sideline when he passed it in. So
getting from bad to worse here.
I mean, no, they're just really unforced errors.
Nunez trying to find his center lane here, gets a nice pick there and is able to wheel that in. So that is a good job by Team Colombia, able to convert there. And Maya is able to do a good work there in opening up that space and forcing Brazil back to their own zone as Souza. DeBrush trying to work their way. And a nice lob pass. Ooh, that was a little bit dangerous. But Wiersma is able to field it in. Now he's double teamed. What is he able to do here? It's knocked out of his hands, but I believe that's still a Brazil ball.
the Colombian coach trying to help the referees, but nothing doing. Jonathan Vargas there.
That usually doesn't work out too well. Yeah.
That's right.
2:07 here to go and a 5-point lead for Colombia, 21-16, and we have another equipment issue as Souza's having something looked at here. Quick fix, and we're back underway as DeBrush working his way through. Bounces the ball, he's got a nice pick there from Souza, and that pick is just able to do it as Rodriguez tried to contact him right at the end, but wasn't able to stop him. And if you're Brazil here, Tim, how do you you're mentioning these unforced errors from frustration, but how do you guard against that?
That's a very good question. If I had the answer to that, there wouldn't be any need for for any other person in the world to run a coaching course.
I thought we were pretty smart. As Nunez converts here on the offensive end for Colombia, reestablishing the 5-point gap here. Souza, DeBrush trying to give him a lane, puts one over the top. Hoffman able to field that in, looked a little bit risky as Nem working against Hoffman defensively. Rodriguez trying to help it out, making it 2-on-1 defensively, but it looks like Hoffman after fighting off a check. No! What are they calling here, Tim?
You can see the goalpost went flying, and I believe Hoffman hit the goalpost before his wheels crossed the line. We'll take a look at it here on the replay. He thought he had the edge on Neme, but crashes into that post prior to the 2 wheels crossing the try line.
Sometimes at a distance you lose it with all the traffic going on and the bumps. You miss the subtle plays in between as Nunez works back the other way for Team Colombia. A little bit over a minute as 2 Brazilians collide, and that sends DeBrush down to the floor as Colombia is able to convert at the offensive end.
So an interesting call by the referee. The player down, DeBrush, way in the backcourt, not part of the play at all. Nunez, as soon as he turned back a little bit from the try line, obviously was deemed to not be trying to score, so referee calls the player down timeout. And
well, it looked like the Brazilians collided with each other there. It didn't look like any contact with the Colombian player, but
even more reason to let it go. But Nunez really should have inched towards the try line to use that time up, as time is a fairly big factor now. We're in that clock management phase. He would have liked to have run the clock down below a minute, but
Neme with the inbound for the Colombians, still have that 5-point lead as I was mentioning, 22-17, and they have the ball here, looking to extend that lead and make the gap pretty big for the second half of this game as Maya reels it in, drops it off for Nunez, the straw that stirs the drink offensively for the Colombians, trying to find a lane as he spins this way and that, beats the heat as there was just a mass of humanity in the middle of the court there, and he's able to negotiate his way through that.
Well, Hoffman goes for the hit and realizes that's not going to happen, then goes for the steal, and it'll be a penalty try as he grabbed Nunez's arm on the way into the score.
Hoffman trying to beat the heat of Nunez, making his life really difficult using those long arms, but he is able to get it to DeBrush. A nice pass there, and oh, that is good work as Wiersma is able to be on the business end, and it looked like Brazil was in a little bit of trouble, able to make a couple quick passes in traffic.
They were in a whole heap of trouble, and Hoffman can't beat Nunez. Lucky to get it past that outstretched arm to DeBrush that time.
Amaya back the other way for the Colombians. His life is being made difficult. It's tipped away, but ultimately does land on the lap of Nunez. And again, he's so confident just wheeling and getting through that neutral middle court, using those long arms defensively and offensively, as you see there. Clock management, as you mentioned, as Nunez circling around, protecting the ball as long as he can, and now he'll take it in. So it looked like 13 when that try went in, but the clock ticked a little bit extra.
Good job by Brazil to push Nunez over the try line and force the clock to stop. So that gives him a bit of time to score.
And Wiersma play catch to Brash now, back the other way, and that's a good job to try to defend him, but it looks like he's going to get through. No, he won't.
Well, the referee was correct. There was 12.9 seconds on the clock, 1.4 when he got called for the 10-second violation without bouncing.
So another costly error for the Brazilians, really, as you mentioned, they've made a ton. Especially, you look at it, that they got it to a tie game to start this quarter, you think, okay, maybe they're settling in, and as soon as things, kind of those unforced errors were causing them, that they really came off the rails there, didn't they?
It certainly did, and taking Gonçalves out of the game, their other big player, even though he's a 2-5, he really does give them a lot of presence out there on the court, as we see him wheeling over on the right-hand side, and defensive presence as well as he forced the turnover.
And his chemistry with DeBrush looks, they look like they've played together for a while, and that was a little bit of a curious play given the score and the time of the game. So we'll see. He'll probably be back for this, third quarter, you'd think, but who knows?
Yeah, Brazil really struggled to get the ball in and over center with that new lineup, and Colombia taking full advantage of it. And sometimes when you play with emotion, you can get a little bit over the top, and sometimes it pumps you up if you're flat, and that's good. But if you're already really hyped and you get too emotional, then you start making silly mistakes, and that's exactly what Brazil has done.
Exactly. It's good to have emotion, but it's so important to be able to channel that emotion and realize when it's gone too far and it's caused you your focus. So we'll see if
DeBrush, number 11 for Brazil, if he can be criticized on one thing, is hanging on to the ball a bit too long. Nunez, his counterpart, will actually pass a little more frequently than will DeBrush, so we'll see how that matchup plays out in the second half. But Colombia here looking pretty good with that 6-try lead.
Yes, and it does look like they have the momentum. However, this game's got a long way to go. We're mentioning that Brazil's trying to find their first win. This would be a huge win for Colombia, giving them 2 and kind of making things a little more unclear on the final 2 spots that will be available for tomorrow's game. So,
and point differential, if there is a tie between 2 or more teams for one of those final spots, the point differential will be critical. And Colombia right now with a pretty solid 6-try lead, so that bodes well for them.
And what the point differential does in these tournaments, because you say it does matter, so you may, if that wasn't the case, see a team kind of ease off the gas, whereas if it is important, it keeps the pace and tempo and competitiveness up.
Well, interestingly enough, at this tournament, because of the complete round robin, every single game is important, every single try is important, and we have not seen any teams back off whatsoever. And despite the score, if it's full court pressure, they've kept it on the entire game, no matter if they're in the lead by a lot or losing by a lot. And so qualification is a big deal. That ticket to Tokyo is a big, big prize. And speaking of Tokyo, Australia, New Zealand, the host Japan, USA, Great Britain, and Denmark have already got their passports renewed and ready to go. And they will wait and see which two teams come out of this tournament. Right now, Canada and France looking like the favorites, but as you say, they don't play the games on paper. They play them right here at the beautiful Richmond Olympic Oval.
It would be good for Canada, and I noticed that Zach Medell, I only saw him in 2014. He wasn't around. I wasn't around in 2016, but he wasn't around in 2018 at the Canada Cup. So maybe just enlighten our listeners on how much does he mean or change the complexion of Canada's team.
Well, he means a lot to that team. He's a fine young man. He's in top shape. He took a few years off to get his schooling, and now he's, as I like to say, educated and ready to go and doing a great job of leading his team out on the court. One thing I've noticed about Zach this year is his play is far more disciplined than it was 3 or 4 years ago. So he's really played club ball all those years, of course, and trained, but just taking a break from the rigors of international travel. And we'll take a moment to thank our sponsors. Colin, if you want to run those down.
Yes, the government of British Columbia and Canada. We've got the Olympic hosting tournament. We have the Richmond Olympic Oval, which of course we're at right now, and the Marriott Airport Vancouver, where a lot of these athletes and coaches are staying now. So it's very convenient having your hotels, the facility, everything so close. So really this makes a lot of sense to have these tournaments in Richmond.
Absolutely, and it's only about a 10 or 15 minute walk or roll between the hotels and the gym here, and so lots of athletes taking advantage of the gorgeous weather we've had here in Richmond the last couple of days.
Yeah,
a little cloudy today, but
apparently
at least it's not raining.
They were calling for snow, believe it or not, yesterday, and when you see the blue skies, you're like, there's no way. So far, so good, I think, but we'll see what happens later in the day as we're about to get back under action as Neme set to inbound for Colombia. Getting a little bit of instructions from the ref as where she wants him to inbound. He adjusts accordingly.
Making sure the penalty table is not going to impede his throwing arm.
He's looking for an option. And of course, Nunes is usually the one they find, but he's double teamed now as it was almost popped out of his hands, but he's able to keep control. And Colombia has possession of the ball, and into the game is Vargas, as Nunes is able to take that one in. And Hoffman trying to beat the heat of Rodriguez over the top. Finds Souza. Souza now gets it to DeBrash. DeBrash trying to work away from Nunes. Now Souza gives him a pick, and he's able to get ahead. Oh, there's some big contact there between Hoffman and Nunes, but Brazil still has the ball. As DeBrash trying to beat the heat. Nunes tried to spin off, but he was locked up well by Hoffman, which enables him to score.
Nice little weak side screen by Souza, allowing DeBrash to go inside the left post. DeBrash should better be careful because he's going to get another one of those 10-second violations for not dribbling.
Nunes looks behind his back and his peripherals, uses the pick and gains the wide speed. Bounces the ball as the middle is cut off by Brazil, but he's able to find a middle lane. Looking for Rodriguez. Can he field it in? He does, and does a good job of protecting it as Hoffman gave him contact. And again, it's nice to see the defensive player make a great play as kind of the pass was a little bit slow, but he's able to field it in and realize that there was traffic headed his way, protects the ball and backs it in.
Hoffman almost got there as we saw on the replay, and the effect was to spin.
Ooh, that's almost a turnover. Who's got it? DeBrash doing a great job of fighting off two Colombians, but he almost turns it over again. Nunes on him. he's able to reel it in, and that's a good call as he almost turned it over twice and is able to call a timeout there to save his skin.
DeBrash, that time he's fighting for the ball, trying to get a pass away, trying to talk to the referee and point out where he got hit, and almost coughs the ball up.
So good job. I think is that the third time out there?
I believe so. They have one left according to our scoreboard.
So one left and 6:47 to go in this quarter. They've got a 7-point lead now, 26-19. So with the amount of turnovers they've made, they don't have much margin for error anymore, but that was definitely a good time to take it as they almost turned it over twice there.
See the frustration starting to creep in a little bit as they're appealing to the referee for fouls and penalties, and it just doesn't work, unfortunately. The referee squad here all week long doing an excellent job.
Souza out of the backcourt. He's got a little bit of a lane, but doesn't have too much speed, so he's forced to stop up. Now Rodriguez in his back pocket trying to steal the ball. Spins this way and that. Wiersma trying to help him a little bit, as is Hoffman. Leaves it for DeBrash. Getting a little bit of a countdown. He's trying to score quickly. Oh, what a nice pass by DeBrash to Souza.
Yeah, DeBrash there thought he had an opening, but as soon as he realized it was going to close, he got it over to Souza.
Great job by Nunez. He got some contact there, but Andante takes it in all the way. So the 7-point lead still intact, 27-20 for Colombia.
So Souza was trapped up court after scoring that try, declares himself as inbounder.
DeBrash working away from Nunez, making his life real difficult, but again able to beat the traffic. Now just going to work on Nem, but again Souza on the business end twice in a row.
I got to admit, DeBrash is now looking to pass a little bit sooner and a little bit more effective for the Team Brazil.
One-armed by Nunez, right over the top, and he finds a absolutely wide open man in the backcourt for Colombia. That's Vargas. So Vargas, as we mentioned, first into the game, now just taking his time and making sure defensive posture is established as he scores. So as this, and if it continues to widen for Colombia, do you expect them to use a bit more of their bench? Will Nunez maybe come out?
I don't know. The point differential is so critical that I think they'll keep their starters in as long as possible.
Souza gets it here. Nunez cuts him off. He's got Hoffman with him. Now a pick is set into the backcourt, and DeBrash back with it, trying to negotiate the wide lane, and he does, and down is Nunez again. I'm not sure what happened there.
It looked like Nunez actually somehow got his one of his anti-tip casters hooked into the defensive chair of Wierdsma, and then when Hoffman came in, and kind of finished off the hit, and down went Nunez. Boy, there's lots of emotion and no love lost between these two teams.
So inbounding is Brazil. DeBrash as Colombia is set in their zone defense. DeBrash gaining his speed. Tries to go wide, then short. Now pulls it all the way wide on the other side. A nice pass over the top to Souza. So D'Souza is making an impact at the offensive end. He's also the recipient of some nice passes, but good to see for him.
Yeah, DeBrash doing a great job now of keeping his head up while he's dribbling and looking for the pass. That's 3 passes in a row to Souza for tries.
And that's a little bit of a scary pass, but it looks like Neme is going to be able to reel that one in. Just managing the clock a little bit here as Nunez isn't behind him, but he does score. Hoffman. DeBrash, a nice fake on Nunez there. Rodriguez trying to keep up with him, but he's got a stride or two. Now gets a nice pick from Souza. So Souza now at the nice end giving a pick for DeBrash, so he's able to score.
And rightly so after receiving 3 try passes in a row. Helps out his teammate.
Little for you, little for me. And Vargas will be able to fill that one in. It looked a little dicey, but
nice soft touch on that pass as it bounced 2 or 3 times before Vargas was able to gather it in.
Souza Hoffman wheeling to get away from traffic. Goes into the middle, now over the top, puts one into an area, and that's an area where Nunez was, but he wasn't able to catch the ball. Does he have it now? There's a scrum, man, it's re-pulled out of his hands. Who's going to end up with the ball here? Oh, there was some heavy hands there, so I'm not sure what they're calling.
Brazil very lucky there to get away with that one. That pass to DeBrash was a little short, almost picked off by Nunez.
And it looked like there was almost a couple turnovers in the scrum as well.
In the ensuing scrum, I should say, Nunez picks up the penalty, and that's a bit of a break for the Brazilian squad here.
And near the end, if you look at this replay here, it looks like there were some heavy hands.
One of the techniques players have developed over time is to turn their arm over on the ball when someone's reaching in, and that'll draw the penalty. And I think
it looks like Hoffman got something in the side of the head. He looked shaken up here, so maybe that was those heavy hands in the scrum. I'm not sure, but side of the head doesn't look too good for him. As Camargo inbounds for the Brazilians.
And Gonçalves back in the game on this power play. That was a bit of a long time coming, but great to see him in there.
And Hoffman being checked out by the medical staff as we see backcourt here. So hopefully he's okay. He has made an impact since coming in and been noticeable. Neme set to inbound for Team Brazil, who has a deficit of 6 to contend with. Nunez off the inbound. DeBrash ahead. Looks like the middle court's tough to contend with, but he's able to get it to Neme. Neme is able to wheel in, but we've got a Brazilian down. And
I don't know how that happened. I was looking back at the ball, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw Camargo go flying. And he was in a little bit of a tussle with number 10, Rodriguez, I think.
We've got, and then Nunez again also has a tire loose. I wasn't sure if he was arguing the call, but it looks like an equipment issue for him. So 3:33 to go, third quarter, 7-point lead now again for Colombia, looking for their second win of the tournament. Brazil, of course, looking for their first. And this would go a long way for Colombia in making things interesting if they're able to hang on here. So
into the game for Colombia, Paula Martinez, the only female on the team, and she will give their team an 8.5-point total point advantage on the floor. So
DeBrash at the business end for Brazil. And she will, Martinez, be the inbounder here. Looking for an option. Nunez is usually the one they find, and they do again here. He's got 3 guys on him, making his life difficult, but able to make a good lateral pass to Vargas here. Vargas gets a pick, trying to work on Camargo, and in comes Gonçalves, making his life difficult, but a great job of Colombia's been able to utilize that a lot, where when they're locked up in coverage, they're able to find Nunez over the top in the middle. It's worked for them a lot. Does there.
Well, Nunez springs free and ever so dangerous as Vargas got the pass over the top to him.
DeBrash, Gonçalves with him, and he lobs on its face, and Camargo does a little pick right at the end just to ensure that point would count, excuse me. Martinez trying to find Nunez. Looks like he's covered, but he fields out with those long arms I was mentioning earlier in the broadcast. So good on offense and defense are those long arms. Vargas now trying to be contend with, but a good pick by Martinez to give him a little bit of room. But it's DeBrash cutting him off. What's he going to do now? Going to look for Nunez opening up again. Backs in, bounces the ball, and he's caught on the other side now, reached in on. He's got a lot of guys. Is he going to have to call a timeout here? It looks like his life is pretty hard.
It looks like the ball was tied up that time by DeBrash. Had a hand on the ball. No, it was Gonçalves, as we see on the replay. And that'll be a jump ball, and possession will go to Brazil.
Camargo Gonçalves. Got fresh arms as he's back into the game only for a few minutes, so comes in wide. A nice pick in there by Camargo, giving him that lane. And
the advantage of having that big player like Gonçalves in there is it's easier. There's more passing options for the Brazilians, plus his speed. He's able to create more space. So Brazil looking a little bit better now. But
Vargas with a desperation pass. What are they calling here? Does it look like
over and back, I believe?
Must have been tight because it didn't look like that much of a motion by Nunez.
Well, just when you thought things were going well, but so later in the day, Colin, let's take a look at the schedule here. 12 o'clock on this main court, Sweden will take on Germany.
I think that's me and you again, so I'll be right here
We'll
again.
be back. And then at 2 o'clock, Canada versus France. And if you are living in the lower mainland area, come on down to Richmond Oval. You can have a house lager and join and watch some exciting wheelchair rugby. That'll be an exciting game.
Yeah,
Switzerland takes on Colombia at 4 o'clock and Brazil against Sweden 6 o'clock today. Tomorrow's games, noon and 2 o'clock. The winners of each of those games will be heading to the travel agent to book their tickets to Tokyo.
How have the Canadian crowds been, the home crowd here? Have they got some good support?
Yeah, they've had some good support. The Swiss team has had some good support. The French team has had good support. So all around excellent turnouts for these games.
DeBrash for Brazil, saying what he wants his teammates to do on the offensive end. Trying to go in himself on the wide side.
It looks like Colombia had 4 in the key, I believe. And that'll be Neme heading to the penalty box. He goes to the wrong side. Finally gets squared away.
Maybe a crack in the door, as you were mentioning, for Brazil to try to make this game a little bit closer. They're down by 5 now, and they have possession of the ball. Gonçalves from Camargo. Trying to work away from Rodriguez. Nice spin there. We're locked up in the backcourt, but it looks like he's got a wide lane, which he uses and is able to score. So Brazil taking advantage there. Closing in on the gap, 1:34 to go in the third quarter. Neme with possession as Nunez is being locked up, but that usually doesn't seem to stop him as those big arms reel it in, and they do again there. One arms the ball, puts it in the air. Puts a nice pass up the wing. Vargas, another nice pass, and Neme at the business end of that long lob. Takes his time with the ball. Realizes that he's got Gonçalves coming in after him, so he does score. 1:17 to go and a 5-point lead for the Colombians here. So
Brazil was a little slow on their defensive transition there, allowing Colombia to score. And really, momentum is the key to this game, and Brazil desperately needing a number of momentum shifts if they're going to get back in it.
Camargo. And especially when the in the game you've had so many turnovers, it's not only closing that gap, but it's trusting your own game to not make those mistakes as well. So it's a double-edged sword. But back Brazil starts, and they are able to get it in. So a little bit over center. Brash now looking at the clock as we're in that clock management time.
So approximately 55 seconds is the preferred time to score, so that you can have a 40-second possession clock as well as a potential 15-second timeout for last try.
Neme fakes left, goes right. Vargas fields it in. He's in a little bit of trouble. Nunez catches it in the lap and starts the offense the other way. In hard from behind is DeBrash, but he's doesn't have much trouble contending with that, and with 38 seconds it looks like, but it ticked down a little bit there. He's able to score, so see what Brazil can do here. Is back the other way to Brash.
Well, Brazil really needs to score a try with very little time left so that Colombia cannot answer back, and then they will get possession to start the fourth quarter. So that may be a bit of a momentum swing for them. Still a pretty tall order at 5 tries, but Brazil in position to make a run.
15 seconds ago as the Brush in possession. A heavy battle in the defensive court. Nunez on him, fronting him, trying to swat the ball away, getting a countdown. What does he have here? Gets it to Gonçalves, who's able to score with 4.6 to go.
And again, though, Brazil's defensive transition a little slow as they're all looking around.
Does Colombia have time to answer? This time is ticking away too, and it doesn't look like it. So,
well, DeBrash trying to steal that ball at the end of the quarter. Not a very bright play at all as he risked a penalty. There's no way that Colombia was going to be able to score from that deep. And Brazil playing a little bit undisciplined. They're going to have to step it up here in the fourth quarter if they're going to have a chance of getting back in this game.
Close the gap a little bit. It's a 4-try game now, but still a lot of work to do. And as we mentioned, it's not just the work you have to do, but it's the corrections within your own game in terms of the turnovers. And as you mentioned, the slowness to the defensive transition. So if they can work on those things, they may have a chance here. But as you mentioned, the Colombians are a hungry team. They still have to play for the standings as well. So let's see how that factors in the fourth and final quarter of this one.
We're taking a look at a few of the replays here. We just saw a couple of those nice passes that DeBrash made to Souza. And then Nunez coming back the other way with a nice little lob pass over the top. And there's been a lot of ball tie-ups and a lot of chair tie-ups in this game, more than we normally see. So
Nunez has been in the middle of it,
Yeah, Nunez has been in the middle of most of them, as has number 11 for Brazil, DeBrash. And that's the play where Hoffman seemed to get hit on the side of the head. And you can see not even fighting for the ball there. He's holding his head. And
still on the bench here.
Hopefully he'll be all right.
He's still on the bench, so we'll see if he comes in. But yeah, I was really surprised. Maybe it's hard to see in those scrums when things happen, but I was surprised because it looked from here that there were some heavy hands coming in and there wasn't a call. But sometimes maybe it's easy to be a little sneaky dirty in those scrums. I don't know, but
well, the referee's doing a great job of getting close to those scrums and getting good angles with which to view potential penalties.
We're about to get underway, ready to get underway here.
It's been interesting all tournament long. Most of the teams have been ready to go before the rest period between quarters is up, and same thing at halftime. So you think by now they'd be a little bit tired, having played, 4 or 5 games in 3 days, but apparently not. Anxious to play.
May lobs one over, and May able to field that one in, so May back in the game for the Colombians. Makes an impact almost immediately. DeBrash back in. Camargo doing a good job of tying up. And the Brazilians will inbound. It's Neme.
So Brazil needs a couple of momentum breaks here, like turnovers or silly mistakes by the Colombians, in order to claw their way back in. 4 tries is not insurmountable.
Wow, what a great lob pass, and what a great catch by Rodriguez as he stopped the momentum of the ball with one hand and then scooped it up to score. What a great two-way play. First by Nunez as the long pass, and secondly by Rodriguez to field that in. And now Brazil back the other way. Gonçalves, DeBrash, cut off, so spins back, waiting for a pick. He gets it from Wiertsma. Now trying to find the middle lane. Rodriguez not going to give it to him easily. And it looks like we got a pop tire here.
So equipment timeout. And DeBrash had better be careful. He's wheeling around a lot without dribbling, pushing the limit on that 10-second count as the technicians come out to make a quick change.
Where get another look at that lob pass. Ooh, baby, look at that spin.
Bullet.
And then look at how he controls it. He knows it's coming at him. He won't be able to catch it on the original bounce, so he has the sense to stop it with one hand, reel it in. So Rodriguez is a guy that I knew nothing about, but he's done well on the defensive end, and he's smart enough to know, what to do offensively or his capabilities, and use that to his advantage as well. So it's good to see.
Some sort of equipment issue with the Colombian team, who are back on defense, and it's the aforementioned Rodriguez who needs a new wheel, and out comes the pit crew.
How many of those wheels do you have to have on hand? I was wondering, because like, what in a game if there was like so many different, like, have you ever seen them run out of wheels?
Well,
I guess that's a better question.
Equipment manager job is probably the one of the tougher jobs, because in between flat tires, you're working hard to repair them. And good crowd for Colombia here at the Richmond Olympic Oval. And
I always wonder what
come a little later, they'd be able to enjoy some house lager.
I always wonder what people from the warmer climates would think when they come, like, holy smokes. And this part of Canada is not even bad in terms of coldness, but that cold, brisk air can get you when the wind's going. DeBrash starting the other way. He's swatted hard by Amaya, but is able to maintain the ball in his lap and possession here. 4 in the key, is that what we're... Tried to look at the ref's hand signal, but...
I think it is 4 in the key, as the Colombian players, player number 9, Amaya, is the 4th player in, so he'll go to the penalty box, and we'll see what Colombia does here on the, or Brazil, I should say, on the power play.
Gonzalez.
Would be a great opportunity in transition to tie up Nunez, so he'd be forced to be called inbounder, but I don't know if they can do that. They're trying to right now at center court.
Yes, there it is, but we'll see what happens here. Amaya. Back.
If you're going to tie somebody up, Colin, you got to tie him up in a corner so that you can use the sidelines as an advantage, and Brazil not able to do that.
Some heavy contact as Nunez now has the ball and is able to ease his way in with 6:27 to go in the 4th quarter, and now 37-32, 5-point lead for the Colombians.
Camargo was caught deep in the court, so declares himself as the inbounder.
And
he's
now
got pretty good range on the pass, as we've got another.
He's done a decent job so far when he has had to be inbounder. So.
Well, Camargo's a key to this Brazilian offense, as he's great at setting picks, and defensively with that big long defensive chair does a good job of blocking the corners both sides.
Now we're waiting to get underway here. I'm not sure exactly what's going on.
Well, why don't we thank our sponsors, BC Wheelchair Sports Association, Wheelchair Rugby Canada, and the International Wheelchair Rugby Federation, our province of BC, Government of Canada through Sport Canada, Richmond Sport Hosting, who have hosted events here for a very long time, and the Richmond Olympic Oval. Colin, they promised they would make the Oval accessible and used for para-athletes, and they've lived up to that promise.
Yeah, they got a long walkway coming in where you don't have to go through the stairs. Nice for me as well, so definitely is, for sure.
So they have stayed true to their word, and we're enjoying a tremendous tournament here.
Neme, short pass to Nunez. Didn't have much speed, but gained some on the wide side. Now confidently bounces the ball through neutral court. Not quite over center yet. Gets a decent pick from Mimea. Puts another long lob, and him and Rodriguez again connect. As you mentioned, that looked a little dicey, but these two seem to have a little bit of telepathy going on from back court to front court, and able to score there.
I took a look at the possession clock. It was down to 29 when Nunez made that pass.
Margo back the other way, quickly scores for Brazil. 5:50 to go in the 4th quarter. 38-34 for the Colombians as Neme set to inbound again. And I don't know what's, Nunez is saying something's up. I'm not sure if it's
I think his strap possibly came loose.
And Brazil doesn't seem to like it.
That looks like a technical foul as Nunez, I believe it will be. Nunez actually was complaining that some part of his equipment was faulty. The Brazilians didn't think so, and the referee took a look and didn't think so either. So Nunez will go to the penalty box. Big break for Brazil here.
Let's see if this will cost them, as Rodriguez, a hard over-the-top play to Amaya, looking laterally, decides to go short court, and that's turned over by Gonzalez, but did he get that before he went out of bounds? I'm not sure. And it looks like he's trying to pump up his bench, so I think that is a Brazilian possession.
I believe he did get it before he went out of bounds, and he called the timeout. Heads up play by Gonzalez there.
Able to conserve the clock.
Big break for Brazil.
3-score game now. So it's starting to get a little interesting as time ticks away.
So well done by Brazil to take advantage of Nunes being in the penalty box.
Nunes, short pass. Maya, back pass, a little risky, but Nunes able to field it off his wheel and under pressure. Brazil wants the pressure here, and it forces Colombia to take the timeout. So Brazil with 2 big plays in a row, and now they have possession. Let's see what they can do with it.
Great job by Brazil there, forcing the turnover when Nunes was in the penalty box, and then winning a moral victory there by forcing Colombia to take one of their on-court timeouts. Colombia has 1 left, Brazil with none left. So,
and that's also big too, yeah.
As we wind down the dying moments of the game, that may become a factor.
Neme set to inbound. He wants Nunes in heavy traffic, a little bit of a risky slow pass, but he's able to get it and find an outside lane, and now it looks like he's going to score. And at what point do you start if you're Colombia, just managing the clock with every potential try? It seems like maybe a smart play, but
I think if you start doing that too early, you run the risk of being afraid to lose, and as soon as you're afraid to lose, then you start making mistakes. So Colombia really needs to keep their foot on the gas here.
Gonzalez over the top. Oh, his man wasn't able to field it in, but following up was DeBrush. So a good job of supporting his man there and able to get the offense going.
Wiertzma, that pass into his wheels, and DeBrush, Johnny on the spot to pick that one up.
Oh, a nice spin move to beat traffic from Nunes. He's still got 2 guys on him. Trying to establish some wide momentum. Can't really do it. Now logs another one ahead, and Rodriguez again. We've seen that the 3rd time in this quarter as those 2 hook up from backcourt to front court. Now Neme back to Nunes in heavy heat. He's got a pick there. He goes over the top. Amaya trying to come in wide. Rodriguez looking to help him out, giving him a lane. He gives him one. Now back over the top. Nunes swivels into the middle and is able to score. So good execution there by the Colombians. And with 4:27 to go, it's a 4-point lead.
Well, great job by Brazil here to keep Nunes deep in his own zone. Got the ball over center at about 11.9 seconds.
Gonzalez going to work his way to the backcourt. He's got some great wide speed. Rodriguez there to cut him off. Nunes swooping in defensively as well. Gonzalez forced to slow up over center.
So that was I believe either a 12-second count or a 10-second count. I didn't quite see the referee's whistle initially as I was looking at the ball.
Yeah, it was coming forward and happened behind the play there.
Just when Brazil had some momentum, just like that, it disappears.
Yeah, and that's kind of been the story of the game. It's not like they had never had momentum. It's just whenever they've got the momentum, it seems to dissipate rather quickly.
Probably their own worst enemy, really, at this point, although...
Oh, and looks like a turnover by the Colombians there. Vargas trying to throw one over the top, no one home, and
that was forced by the hit from DeBrush as he hit the Colombian player in the act of passing, and he's hitting anything in sight now.
DeBrush there, got the ball. Gonzalez ahead of him trying to open up a lane, which he does, and he'll score. So a 3-point lead now, 40-37, 3:44 to go. Every play amplified here, as you can see. Both benches are really into it, urging their men on. Neme looking for Nunes, beats a little bit of traffic, a short pass in. Rodriguez trying to help him out. Spins back and forth. Another good pick by Rodriguez, gives Nunes that space, cuts to the middle. And it looks like he's just going to take this himself. Killing a little bit of the clock, making sure his team may be set up defensively at the other side as they're already trying to lock up their men. Camargo for the Brazilians. Gonzalez spines the wide side, and a good pick by Wiertzma there, giving him some space. Nunes tries to cut him off, but he's able to get in the middle, and Nunes Uninterrupted, cuts back into the lane. Double team by Rodriguez, got Wurzman behind him. Rejected out of his hands. What does he do here? Ooh, Camargo able to reach in behind him and field that one in. Back to Gonsalves, over to DeBrush. He doesn't have much momentum. This clock's got to be ticking down. Camargo, oh, and that is just terrific concentration and support there by Team Brazil. Able to beat the heat several times with not much forward momentum. Support each other and make some great passes.
By Camargo there to save that play for Brazil.
3-point game now, 41-38 as Nunes wheeling hard, some several aggressive bounces, gets himself some space. And just like that, Nunes takes a little bit of time off the clock as we are getting into a little bit of management time now. He scores 2:32 to go, 4-point game.
Well, Brazil is running out of time here in the late stages of this game, and they'll have to score quickly and create some turnovers if they hope to have a chance to win. And there's the wheels are falling off Gonsalves' chair, and
I don't think they'll be disputing that.
Thank goodness for the two anti-tip catchers.
Yeah, because it didn't look like his chair changed its positioning all that much. I'm a little surprised.
He got hit from the opposite side, but there's a fine line on that quick release button, and sometimes if you get hit hard enough, it'll pop itself free.
So Brazil has the ball. DeBrush, Camargo on his flank, Wurzman on the other side. Gonsalves in trying to create a lane on the middle. He gets a pass in coverage using those long arms and backs in. 2:10 to go, 3-point game here, 39-42. And it looks like he might have got something in the eye, he's saying.
So Gonsalves, possibly a hand in the eye as he was backing over the goal, and a little bit of a risky pass by DeBrush over the top.
And if he did maybe it's the back arm of Neme who catches him, not the forward arm, and it didn't look intentional.
Well, right there we saw what happened. He put his chin on the ball to hold it on his lap, and Neme went to slap the ball off his lap and inadvertently got him in the eye. And I'm not a fan of using your chin to hold the ball on the lap.
Yeah, you're putting yourself at risk there, that's for sure. Didn't look intentional, as you mentioned, and Nunes with the ball. Vargas. Neme has DeBrush on him hard, but gets it to Nunes. Two Brazilians on him. The intensity really ratcheting up here. Nunes using some quick pivots within his chair to gain some momentum. And when you're wheeling, even if you don't have the push, if you kind of juke your body, does that enable the momentum a little bit better?
If you effectively use your planes of motion, you can actually turn your chair without using your hands by whipping one way and causing an opposite reaction, and then coming back through a different plane and keeping going. So
nice
players practice that.
Drop pass, Camargo there. Gets it over, and now DeBrush from Gonsalves. Looking for that middle lane. Looks like it's there. Comes all the way wide and is able to score.
Nice little back screen by Camargo there, right side. And Brazil really running out of time here.
I have enjoyed their fight, though. They really haven't given up, and they've, despite their errors, have really shown passion in the game. So you got to respect that. As Nunes back the other way for the Colombians. Hard pick from Vargas, but doesn't really thwart Gonsalves there the other way. But Nunes still has the ball. Looks at the clock and takes a few ticks off. So 58.4 to go, 4-point lead. So it would take a minor miracle here for Brazil. Of course, they don't have timeouts either.
Gonsalves with an equipment issue, and out comes the Brazilian technician to make the quick repair. Not quite sure what it was, but you get a minute within which to make that repair, or else you have to be substituted. So these technicians, they don't wander out on the court and strut their stuff. They sprint out there and get to work right away.
So very entertaining game. And the competitive nature between both teams, and let's just be honest, there's a little bit of a dislike there.
Well, it's funny, you think in terms of sports sociology, and you look at the styles of play of teams from around the world, and typically you'd say the South Americans, the Latin teams would play with emotion, and you'd say the North American teams would play more with creativity, and the some of the Central Europe teams more with precision. And
sometimes it'd be nice if you could meld all three, because all three have their advantages and disadvantages depending on how you look at it. Wiersma gets it in. DeBrush, Camargo, a nice three-way passing play there for Team Brazil. And I'm not sure, does Brazil have any more games left, or?
Brazil will play Sweden at 6 o'clock tonight.
And I think that's the one we're doing. So.
And, SportsCanada.tv, Murderball.tv is
Nunez. Clock killing time. They're not going to give it to him early, and he was bumped hard from behind there. It looked like by DeBrush, and I'm not sure that looked pretty flagrant. I'm not up on all the rules, but
we'll wait and see what the referee will call. It looks like DeBrush will get a penalty there. So
Nunez
Gonsalves is trying hard to tie him up, almost loses his balance, but the hit from behind by DeBrush will send him to the penalty box, and that will pretty well eliminate any chance that Brazil has of coming back in this game as their number one ball handler sitting in the penalty box.
Nunez has been pretty well acquainted in all aspects of the game. He's even got a good look at the floor a few times.
That's right. Thank goodness his coach taught him how to fall, because otherwise he'd be in trouble.
Another hard collapse of Souza, and I think it's Hoffman back in the game.
Back in the game. That's good to see.
Yeah, and you can see that competitive edge. Brazil is not liking the way this one has gone, and there's another call here.
So a timeout called by
Colombia using their last one.
And they will.
And I know that even if you're going to win, you want to practice those in-game situations so that when it's really, up for grabs, that you're a little more kind of dress rehearsed into the situation.
Well, we've seen teams score in this tournament with under 2 seconds on the clock, so it is possible to score quickly.
Nunez gets the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There's a whistle right at the end there as Nunez eventually gets over the line with 0.2 seconds to go. So this one will be a hard-fought game, which Colombia is able to pull out by a score of 45-41. There was a lot of momentum swings throughout the game in each quarter. A great competitive game by both teams. But I think if you're looking at it objectively, even though Colombia won, they may not be happy with the turnovers that they and some of their game management things they were able to do in that game. Even though they got the win and it's their second of the tournament, putting them at least alive for a berth in the games tomorrow, but they definitely have things they want to work on. But a competitive game, and you've got to hand it to Brazil. They could have mailed it in several times where you thought Colombia was pulling away, and they reeled it back in on a few occasions.
Well, the first quarter was a little bit scrappy, and Brazil kind of hanging in there. In the second quarter, when Brazil made their subs, they had difficulty getting the ball over center, allowing Colombia to open up that 4 or 5 try lead. And then when they went back to their starters and their taller players, they were able to claw their way back in, but it was too little too late. And the coach will be reviewing the tape, I'm sure, and the substitution patterns to see what they might do differently next time.
And both teams showing a great deal of passion and sportsmanship here as they're really admiring one another. So that is great to see. And that's one thing I've always liked about the wheelchair rugby game, is the fact that despite how competitive, physical it is, it would be easy to kind of take it over the line a bit, take it personally, but you can tell they're competitive, but after the game's over and even during the game, there's a great deal of sportsmanship.
Absolutely. There was a little bit of trash talk there. Early in the third quarter when we had some collisions, and there was a lot of scrappy play, a lot of tie-ups, a lot of times when the ball was loose and the players fighting for it, and a lot of times when chairs got hooked together. So
it was
Colombia, though, full value for the victory. And I really think Gonsalves, when he went out of the game, that was the difference, number 10 for Brazil. That was the big difference, as DeBrush held up his end of the bargain. And I criticized DeBrush early on for hanging on to the ball too long, but over time he switched that up and made a lot of really nice passes and a few good hits.
So stick with us. Following this game, in about half an hour's time, we'll have Germany and Sweden. So Germany has 2 wins, Sweden with 1. So crunch time again for Sweden, especially with Colombia winning and getting their second win. So we'll see if they can keep pace with them as well. And Sweden is a team that does have some good individuals. I've seen them a few times before, and they are a good team. So we'll see if they can put it together here against a German squad that I've never seen, but like I said, does have 2 wins.
Well, Sweden is coached by Benoit Lebrecq, as we watch some of the highlights from this game. But Benoit Lebrecq, a Canadian, of course, coached Canada's national team for a number of years, now coaching in Sweden, done a great job there. Germany, an up-and-coming team, so we will be back for that one at noon. Don't forget the feature match, Canada versus France, 2 o'clock, feature to us because we're Canadian, Colin. And that'll be carried on the Canadian Paralympic Committee Facebook page as well as cbcsports.ca. We'll see Switzerland against Colombia at 4, and Brazil will be back against Sweden at 6.
And we're signing off for now, and we'll see you shortly.